Good morning. Hope you're enjoying your cold front. Look at how cute these little monster cans are. It's so tiny and adorable. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt, and I'm going to be flying solo today, bringing you a book review of A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. I read this book. I finished it in August or September of this year. Now that we're picking videos back up, I feel like it's finally time to give this the review that it is due. And boy, does it deserve one, because it was incredible. I loved this book in the end. I loved it in the end. It really picked up. In the beginning, I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of the main character, and I think that's by design. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about it. So in A Man Called Ove, we follow a man called Ove in his day-to-day life, in his neighborhood, dealing with annoying neighbors, dealing with drivers in the street that don't follow the rules, and a stray cat that won't leave him alone. And he's just grumpy all the time, just always grumpy. And it kind of, it got on my nerves. I didn't like it. I was like, why are you so mad all the time? I don't enjoy you as a person, and I want to put this book down. Those are my honest thoughts when I was reading the beginning of this book. It was a struggle for me to power through, but Shawnee has read this before me, and she encouraged me to power through. I've seen multiple other reviews that sing high praises of this book, and so I wanted to see what it was all about. And by the end of it, I could not hold back my tears. I've never felt so much in a book. I don't know how to explain it to you without spoiling it, but what I can say is I had to think about it and write it down. And what I said was, as you progress through Ove's story, you begin to uncover behind-the-scene details about him, such as what makes him come alive, what he was like as a young man, and eventually why he seems to be so grumpy all the time. And I'll get into this in spoilers later in the video, and there'll be timestamps and sections you could skip around if you don't want it to be spoiled. But this book was really impactful for me because I feel like there are things that I can kind of relate to. I'm the type of reader to put myself in the protagonist situation to try to experience it for myself. And I think that's a part of the reason is why I was losing it when I finished it. Like, the sobbing. I can't describe to you how emotional this book got me. Just like fetal position, ugly cry. It was, yeah. I don't know that I'll forget this book ever. I won't forget the way it made me feel. I won't forget the response that I had to it for quite some time. You should definitely read this book. 5 stars, absolutely no doubt about it. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars every day, every time. It's so good. Honestly, I don't know what else I can say without spoilers. So should you read this book? Yes, get it, buy it, listen to it, whatever. I think you need to read this. So now I'm gonna get into spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, you can click off, thanks for watching. You can skip to the outro, thanks for watching. And if you're gonna jump off, see you next time. If you're still here, let's get into some spoilers. So I didn't want to say this in the not spoiler section, but I feel like there should be a content warning of suicide or attempted suicide. That seems to be a pretty heavy theme in Ove's life. So the reason that he is so grumpy is because he lost the only person that's ever understood him, and that is his wife. A couple of quotes that I wrote down while reading it that describe how he viewed his wife, or his relationship with his wife, and how important it was to him. First, he says, or Bachman writes, "She often said that all roads lead to something you were always predestined to do. And for her, perhaps it was something, but for Ove, it was someone." And additionally, he writes, "He had never been asked how he lived before he met her, but if anyone had asked him, he would have answered that he didn't." And I think that's relatable to me. This story is relatable to me in that, finding that person that you feel like you were tied to since the beginning, that you were like destined to be with. And reading this within my first year of marriage with Shani, I think is had a heavy role to play in the emotional response that I had, because in the story there's a tragic accident, and his wife is paralyzed, and their lives are changed forever. And then eventually she ends up passing away, and Ove just feels lost. He doesn't know how to do life. He doesn't know how to continue on, but he still wakes up every day and does his best. But without her, it sucks. And because I put myself in protagonist's shoes, it was difficult for me to get through that, because I put myself as an old man in mine and Shani's old age. And I I sat there and I pictured what my life would be like without her, and what I would feel if I lost her. And, oh gosh. And I think that's around that point in the book is when I first started to cry. And then, so that's when we find out, why Ove is so grumpy. There are some other things that happen to him in his life that are pretty crappy, and anybody would be upset with. But the main one that is focused on is the relationship with his wife and the grief that he feels, the loss that he feels, and the feeling lost that he feels without her. And that's the one that hit home for me most. And so the further on you read, again, you start to understand Ove, and you start to root for Ove, and you don't hate him anymore. At least I didn't hate him anymore. And he's just by the end of it, you see him as he's such a wonderful man that's grieving, and has lost the only person that he's ever loved to the fullest. And like, he is so broken since losing his wife that he feels there's no point in living. He attempts to take his own life multiple times throughout the book, and the imagery was kind of gruesome, and just it felt pretty dark, those sections. But he ends up at the very end, he ends up having a heart attack and is in the hospital. He comes back. All of his neighbors, his friends that he's developed relationships with, come to the hospital. They sit with him. They take him back home. They love him. They care for him. They do life with him. They encourage him to continue pushing on. And then eventually, one day, he dies peacefully in his sleep. One thing that I'm gonna read you the part that got me the most. Yeah, in the final scene of the book, his neighbor Parvana comes out. I hope I said that right. That's the way I've been pronouncing it when I've been reading. So his neighbor Parvana walks out, or wakes up, goes to the window, and sees that the snow in front of Ove's house hasn't been shoveled. And it's 8:15, which by then it's typically shoveled. And so she runs over in concern, goes inside and finds Ove. It says, it looks like he's sleeping very deeply. And his face had never looked so peaceful. So on the bedside table, she finds his last will and testament, telling her what to do with all of his belongings, who gets the house, who gets the money in his bank account, what to do with the car, et cetera, et cetera. And then it says, there are clear instructions in the letters about the funeral, which mustn't under any circumstances be made a bloody fuss of. Ove doesn't want any ceremony. He only wants to be thrown in the ground next to Sonia, that's his wife, and that's all. No people, no messing about, he states firmly and clearly to Parvana. And then the next paragraph says more than 300 people come to the funeral. And that to me was beautiful, because it showed that even though he was so grumpy and didn't seem like he would get along with people, he impacted a lot of people's lives. He was important to the community. People knew him. People loved him. Just a great guy. And then the very last paragraph, they're going to sell Ove's house to somebody, and the paragraph describes essentially they're a spit and image of Ove at a younger self. And I think it's so poetic and beautiful, and the story was just incredible. The emotions that we felt, the ups and downs, the grief that we felt with Ove, the loss that we felt with Ove, and the loss that we felt after he left, after he died. Man, oh, I want to read this again for the first time. I wish that I could. So yeah, those are my thoughts on A Man Called Ove. A beautiful book by Fredrik Backman. This is only the second book that I've read by him. This makes me want to continue reading more and more and more and more of Fredrik Backman. Such a great author, such a great storyteller. Thoroughly loved this book. I really, really want you to read it, and I really, really want to know what you thought about it. So that's it for today. If you are not subscribed and you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then you can ring the bell so that you're notified whenever we upload a video. We don't really have an upload schedule here. We just kind of upload whenever we want. And yeah, give it a like if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!